I'm sorry. Sorry, Mom, we just can't manage anymore.
74 years old, Evelyn Carter believed her life had quietly reached its final chapter. She wasn't expecting anything big anymore. No miracles, no second chances, just a little peace, and maybe a place where she could sit in the sunlight without feeling like a burden. But life had something completely different planned for her, something she never saw coming. It all started on a cold Tuesday morning when her daughter handed her a folded paper without even looking into her eyes. Evelyn didn't need to read it to understand what it was, but still her hands trembled as she opened it and confirmed her worst fear. It was an eviction notice. After 32 years in that house, after building a life inside those walls, everything was taken away in a single moment. "I'm sorry, Mom. We just can't manage anymore," her daughter said in a flat tone that didn't carry any real emotion, and those words hit harder than the notice itself. Too much. That's what she had become. Too much. Evelyn slowly looked around the room. The old sofa, the curtains she had stitched with her own hands, the photos on the wall that held memories of birthdays, laughter, and moments that once felt permanent, but now everything looked temporary, replaceable. Within hours, her belongings were being packed into boxes, not saved, not valued, just sorted like things that didn't matter anymore. She stood quietly near the door holding a small suitcase, the only thing they allowed her to keep. No one asked where she would go. No one offered help. And maybe the most painful part was that no one even seemed curious. But Evelyn knew exactly where she was going. There was one place left, a place she hadn't visited in over 40 years, a place connected to a memory she had buried deep inside her heart, the old property that once belonged to her grandmother, hidden far from the city behind trees and silence. The house had burned down years ago, but something still remained, a small underground cellar built into the hillside. As a child, she used to call it the quiet place. But her grandmother had always called it something else, the place where truth waits. Back then, Evelyn never understood those words, but now, as she stood in front of that old wooden door covered in rust and time, she felt something strange, a mix of fear and hope. From her coat pocket, she pulled out a small key she had carried for decades without knowing why. Yeah, her grandmother had given it to her just before she died, telling her to only use it when the world leaves you with nothing. Evelyn had never imagined that moment would come, but now it had. Her hand shook as she pushed the key into the lock and turned it. The metal cracked and gave way. The door opened slowly with a deep creak. Dust filled the air, and the smell of old wood surrounded her. She stepped inside and found the cellar just as she remembered it, silent, untouched, frozen in time. Shelves lined the walls, but most were empty, and at the far end of the room sat something that instantly pulled her attention. A wooden chest, old, heavy, almost like it had been waiting for her. Her heartbeat grew faster as she walked toward it. There was no lock, just a quiet feeling that whatever was inside was meant for her. She opened it slowly, and inside, wrapped carefully in cloth, was something she never expected to see again. A white dress, simple but elegant. The dress she was supposed to wear on her wedding day, the wedding that never happened. And suddenly, memories she had buried for decades came rushing back. 40 years earlier, she had been a completely different person, full of hope, deeply in love, ready to begin a new life. She had met Daniel Harris, a man who saw her for who she truly was, not for the whispers and rumors that followed her everywhere. But those rumors didn't appear on their own. They were created by someone powerful, someone respected, someone no one dared to question, a man who couldn't accept rejection, a man who chose to destroy her instead of facing his own truth. Evelyn had tried to speak back then. She had tried to defend herself, but no one listened, no one believed her, and slowly she was pushed out of everything. Her wedding was canceled, her name was stained, her life was reduced to silence. But now, as she looked at that dress again, she realized something else was hidden beneath it, something her grandmother had left behind. Letters, carefully folded and preserved. Evelyn picked one up with trembling hands and opened it, and as she read the words, her entire world shifted. The letter was from someone who had worked closely with the man who destroyed her life. It described everything, the truth she had been trying to tell all those years, the lies he had created, the manipulation, the way he twisted everything to protect himself. Evelyn's breath became heavy as she grabbed another letter, this one from a witness who had seen everything happen, someone who had stayed silent out of fear. And then there was the final letter, written in her grandmother's handwriting. Evelyn sat down on the cold ground as she read it, with tears running down her face. Her grandmother had known the truth all along. She had tried to protect her, but fear had stopped her from speaking out. Instead, she had hidden the truth, preserved it carefully, waiting for the moment Evelyn would need it the most. And now that moment had arrived. For the first time in decades, Evelyn didn't feel weak. She didn't feel broken. She felt clear, like something inside her had finally awakened. The next morning, the town square was filled with people, just like always. Conversations, laughter, normal life continuing as if nothing had ever happened. And at the center of it all stood the man who had destroyed her life, still respected, still admired, still powerful. But that was about to change. Evelyn walked toward him slowly, each step steady. People began to notice her. Whispers spread through the crowd because something about her had changed. She didn't look defeated anymore. She looked certain. When she finally stood in front of him, the crowd had already gone quiet. He looked at her first with confusion, then discomfort, then something deeper, fear. "I have something to say." Evelyn spoke calmly, holding the letters in her hand. 40 years ago, you told this town a story about me. Today I'm here to tell the truth. And then she began reading the letters out loud, every word, every detail, every hidden truth that had been buried for decades. The crowd listened in silence. At first unsure, but slowly realization began to spread, because the truth doesn't need noise to be powerful. It only needs to be heard. And as she continued, all eyes turned toward him, watching his expression change, the confidence fading, the control slipping, until finally he broke. He admitted everything, not proudly, not loudly, but clearly enough for everyone to hear. The same people who once doubted her now stood there in shock because the truth had finally arrived, late but undeniable. Evelyn didn't ask for revenge. She didn't demand anything. She simply said one sentence, "Let the truth be remembered," and then she turned and walked away, not as a victim, but as someone who had finally taken back her life. In the days that followed, everything changed. The story spread. People talked. Some apologized. Some avoided her. But it didn't matter anymore, because Evelyn didn't need their approval. She had something far more important: her name, her dignity, her truth. Months later, as she stood in her small new home with sunlight filling the room, she realized something powerful. It's never too late. Not too late to speak, not too late to stand up, not too late to reclaim what was taken from you, because truth doesn't expire. It waits patiently until the moment you're strong enough to carry it. And when that moment comes, everything changes.